I'll get cracking. Welcome to this week's members weekly group coaching session as part of the Personal Brand Hub. The Personal Brand Hub is a community that I've created for founders that are on a similar mission to build magnetic personal brands that position them as the go-to experts within their industry. If you are new here, then keep yourselves on mute throughout for the next 20 minutes or so while I'm talking. What I do tend to do is get you guys involved and ask some questions. So please do feel free to unmute yourself. When I do that, I tend to come to conversations that we've recently had or something like that, if it comes to my mind. And yeah, try to give it an interactive session to keep you guys on your toes as well. This week, values and beliefs. And it's like the foundation of a personal brand, your values and your beliefs. And they are what help you attract the right types of clients and opportunities. So I suspect we'll be coming back to it a lot. I talk about it a lot with my one-to-one clients because beige beliefs equals shit clients. That's another way of saying if they're not identified and they're not shared, you will attract people that you don't enjoy working with and that you're not best placed to help. That's another way of saying that. Now, if you're new here or if you've been here before, you will recognize Ben's personal brand framework for founders, which is the Be More You framework. And Mimi and I were having a chat the other day, and she asked me if I was part of a franchise because of this framework. No, I'm not. It's all mine, proudly mine. And in fact, what I'm going to do is there is a story behind it, and it does form part of my beliefs and values. So I'm going to share it with you where this came from, and hopefully, it will help you identify some of your beliefs and values as well. And we'll be coming on to that. So the framework is B stands for beliefs, what we're talking about today. E is for experiences, what you've been through in life. M is for moments, behind the scenes, everyday stuff that's going on, the client conversations you're having. Opinions, again, this is related to today. Results, so a bit of social proof doesn't go amiss. It's not about you saying you're good at what you do, it's about others saying it for you. Done that. Expertise, showing people how bloody great you are at what you do. So they approach you in the first place. Your why, what gets you out of bed in the morning, which builds that emotional connection with your audience. Others, which are collaborations. What kind of collaborations can you have with other industries, perhaps even within your industry, to cross-fertilize your audiences? And last but not least, which wraps it all together, is being unfiltered. So dropping that professional facade and essentially being more you in a nutshell. And once these are shared consistently, you start attracting better aligned clients, opportunities, talent, and funding if that's what you're looking for. So question for you guys. I put it to you on the hub. Maybe I should have sent it. I'm pretty sure I sent it to you as well. What do you find yourself ranting about after a glass of wine or two? Now, before we get into this, let's avoid politics and religion, of course. We're not going to go into that today, probably ever either. But your unfiltered rants are often the most honest expressions of what you stand for. For me, I'm going to start you off. It's quite commonly you'll find me yapping about the education system in the UK, and that was born out of, I'm not going to say neglect because that's a bit over the top, but just painting me with a brush, tarring me with a brush of, the kid's an idiot, you're never going to go anywhere, which I'm sure a lot of us are told in school, sadly. And my expression to that is, you judge a fish by how it climbs a tree, it will spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. And whilst writing this presentation the other day and doing some content on it, my brother was in the room and he's going through severe dyslexia. And he's been painted with the brush of, learning difficulties or learning challenges. And I'm thinking, why have you used this terminology to explain this thing with him? He's going to grow up thinking he's an idiot, and it's going to affect how he views himself. It's going to undermine him. So if he's like got a great opportunity and a well-paid job, perhaps, an offer there, he might question himself, go, no, well, actually, I've got learning difficulties, so maybe I'm not worthy of that. So I had a quick, sincere conversation with him. I said, don't let them paint you with that brush. Sorry, that's a bit deep for a Friday morning, but I want to kind of get you guys into this mood. So, Mimi, I'm going to come to you first. I'm going to pick on you as the visitor. What is one thing that's not politics or religion that it doesn't necessarily have to relate to your work, but what's one thing you find yourself ranting about?
It doesn't have to do with my industry.
It can. That'd be great, but it can.
One
But
thing that people were discussing recently when I was out with friends is that some of my friends rent and they are have been renting for years, but they can't get mortgages, and that's frustrating when you can prove that you've been able to afford rent, which is more than anybody's mortgage around the table, and they're frustrated that they can't
and
get mortgages, even though
what
they
kind of
can clearly afford it each month. There's like most of them are self-employed, so it comes down to that side of it, but that's quite frustrating, I guess.
what what kind of belief do you think that forms, though, is what we're trying to aim for today? What kind of belief do you think comes out of that?
You've caught me off guard. I was
Okay, well, let's go back to perhaps something you rant about or something you and your friends talk about, um, that maybe goes back to when you were younger, at a younger age. Doesn't have to be childhood.
Well, I guess if you touched on schooling, like why at schools don't they teach about financial management?
Yeah. Okay. And what kind of belief would that um, form?
Well, I don't know if it's a belief as such, it just creates that people don't have an understanding of finances.
Um, yeah, but it's like a moment of friction for you because it's like, oh, why don't schools do that? So it might create like mistrust.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it is mistrust. Um, it's not
Anyway,
stupidity, but it's just the unknown of people not knowing how to manage money
yeah.
and the belief that they don't have to save or they don't have to go for it. It's yeah, like just the bigger picture of like how to manage it all, I guess. I'm not really making sense here, am I?
Which makes you, which builds sort of frustration inside you,
Yeah.
and it develops into later life. Well, you've developed this opinion in later life, but we'll come back to. I'll give you some great examples of first-hand ones, and I want you guys to get involved as well, of things that have happened to you perhaps as a kid that have now formed these values in later life. James, I'm going to come to you. What's one thing you find yourself ranting about?
Well, you've taken my main one off the agenda and ranting about politics. So,
Well, I don't want to
um,
bring that into the
I,
group.
I think there's a couple of things which is kind of both personal and professional, just ranting around bureaucracy and useless processes
Okay.
for the sake of it. Which I guess is just a belief in, well, partly HR, how we just create crap for ourselves that
For the sake of it.
serves no purpose at all
Yeah.
for the business.
Yeah.
So, Ben, you will have seen from my profile the whole thing about ranting around purpose over process and pragmatism over policy. I
Yeah.
just can't bear it where nobody can explain why a policy exists other than it always
But
existed. Um,
and it's
and
like Whitehall, isn't it? I suppose
yeah,
that's why we wanted to bring politics into a way. But yeah, let's okay. Well, yeah, it happens in Whitehall. There's just red tape bollocks just for the sake
yeah,
of it.
exactly. And the other one that I find myself ranting around is like snowflakes who either don't want to take opportunities or who can't take feedback, and that whole sense of entitlement without effort.
Yeah. Is that a dig at Gen Z, perhaps? No.
No comment.
Yeah, definitely. There's that. I've heard about it. I'm, I'm not in corporate anymore, so I'm not experiencing it firsthand. But I suspect you come across it very often.
And yeah, not even in corporate. I mean, my husband's a vet, and some of the nurses there have a meltdown if they're asked to do one thing out of the ordinary.
Really?
Or,
Yeah.
we actually had, it was funny, we actually had a case this week. One of the nurses went into meltdown because we wouldn't give her a compassionate paid day's leave because her hamster died. It's like,
I mean, really,
yes,
hamster.
yes, the hamster died. So
I mean, come
she's
on.
very attached to her hamster apparently, and it's like, seriously, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Let's go to an extreme here, and I'm not saying do this, but let's say you shared that story, James. It would be quite controversial, I grant that, and there will be people that go, right, not acceptable, but there will be a lot of people that go, totally agree with you, James. Let's say you shared that story in a LinkedIn post. That's then going to demonstrate to everyone that this is what you don't stand for. I don't want to attract people like this. I don't want people to come and work for my company like this. And there are some people on LinkedIn that have got the cojones to do that. And it can work really well to attract the right kind of people. Do you see how?
Yeah, I can see how it works. I mean, I wouldn't take that because it would be immediately identifiable for the people who work in my husband's clinic. So as a good employer, that's not the branding I want. But I take your point that taking an extreme point of view can help sometimes.
Yeah. Go on, Gary, then. Over to you, pal.
All right. Well, something from my childhood or my younger days. Let's not say childhood, but I kind of worked in social care, for 30 years, and before that, I had a string of jobs in my 20s, and I never had any issue finding work with agencies or whatever. And now in my kind of mid-50s, and I'm freelance, and I'm sometimes looking for work. I really struggle with, I really struggle with the whole kind of ghosting and not replying, or you see jobs being advertised, and before you even apply, there's 3,000 people applied for it. So I've seen a difference in the whole job market and how, and people say to me, well, there's a lot more people applying for jobs now, but I don't really buy that because there's always lots of people applying for jobs. I just think some of our standards in terms of people communicating has really slipped because a lot of the agencies now are using, AI or whatever to kind of just auto respond or not respond. And it's really frustrating when especially when somebody phones you up and says, there's a job here, it's going to be paying £500 a day. Are you interested? And you're like, yeah, that sounds great. And then nothing, crickets.
So what kind of value do you think that has ingrained in you with your business now and how you act with your clients?
It comes back to kind of, for me, it comes back to if you say you're going to do something, you do it, you follow through.
Right.
And I find a lot of these agencies and people I speak to don't follow through.
Yeah.
Where they say, I'll call you back or drop you an email and you hear nothing and you think,
So do you see how now you've identified that?
Yeah.
That value, that follow through, that's probably a different term for it, but reliability, let's call it that. So I pride myself, so say you put this in your messaging, I pride myself on reliability. Maybe you could go into a bit further detail because I'm sick of ... X client or not X client, sorry, but X companies that don't get back to you, or there's not that human approach. Then you attract clients who appreciate that human approach and are responsive back to you. Do you see how by sharing that value you attract people? We're going to go into further detail on this. You attract those right people for you. Yeah,
it comes back. I guess it just comes back to good business, really. I think if you say
well, that's your opinion, right? That's your opinion. That's just good business. So by sharing that's just good business, like those values around what just good business is to you,
and I think I had this confidence, I had this belief that I'd have no problem finding work. And I found that not to be the case. So that's been a bit of a kind of confidence, it's not my confidence a little bit, but not at the same time, I just think, well, what's not for you doesn't go past you and all that. But I think
good.
But I think I just there was a time when people would respond to emails or they would respond to communication, and
Yeah.
now that seems to have just drifted where it's now just acceptable not
To be
to
a load of
reply.
tosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, well, look, thank you guys for being so candid and open about that. I might bring you in again as we go, but let's crack on. So your values and your beliefs are the foundation and the cornerstone of your personal brand. They're the glue between what you say and how people feel about you. The goal isn't to attract more people with personal branding. The goal is to repel the wrong ones. And that is why sharing your values and beliefs is the fastest way to self-select your clients before you even sat down and have a conversation with someone. So it's saving all that heartache and pain and time, most importantly, later down the line for you. And also, once you understand them, they're going to just, well, in fact, they're driving your decision making on a daily basis right now, what your values and your beliefs are, on who you want to work with, and what you're sharing with the wider world through your content and your messaging. Yeah, so as I said, your aim isn't to attract more people with personal branding. As an effect of being very clear of your values and your beliefs, you tend to attract the right people, more of the right people. But your goal is also to repel the wrong ones that don't align with you, that you're not best placed to help. I don't know why I'm sounding like a robot. That don't align with you, that don't understand your value, that ask for discounts, that waste your time. You know what, they don't reply to emails, Gary, or stuff like that. So this is why we need to share our beliefs and values. This is why they're so important, because beliefs create resonance and memorability that a skill set never can. Now, the difference between beliefs and values are, your beliefs are like the lens that you see the world through. They are what you think is true about the world around you, hence religion, for example. And your values are the compass that guide your daily choices. Now, where do they come from? Is the big question. Here I am, a snotty little child ridden with eczema. They are formed from the day you were born, and beliefs tend to come from some sort of friction in your life. So perhaps a time someone pissed you off, or a thing pissed you off, or you came across some hardship. So I want you guys to have a think what this belief created in me. So I suffered with bad eczema way into my teens. I was underestimated at school, and I later then moved out and threw myself into the deep end of adulthood at the age of 18. What kind of belief do you think that ingrained in me? It's not a difficult one. Should be quite easy for you guys.
Sense of self-worth.
Sense of self-worth, yeah. Resilience.
Determination, I guess, to kind of,
Yeah.
not be known as the kid with bad eczema. You want to be known as someone else, someone who's
Yeah.
got,
Yeah. The reason I'm doing this today and doing values and beliefs is because I've been doing a lot of self-discovery, and we're going to talk about how we can do this ourselves. You guys can do it yourselves, and reflecting on where those values and beliefs formed in your childhood. And it's amazing doing this self-discovery. You don't need to pay a therapist. There's something called ChatGPT now, which is fantastic. And you can identify those values and beliefs. And then I started taking them and then sharing and then plopping them into my messaging and my content as well. Why? Because it's going to help me attract people that align with me, like you fantastic guys. Another example, at 9, Sarah brought weird packed lunches. She got mocked. She grew up and she learned to own being different. Now she values self-expression. So she would be someone, for example, that would align, probably very likely align with me, because self-expression and being more you and being more authentically you aligns quite well. So Sarah, for example, might be someone that I would work quite well with because she's willing to be her authentic self.
What's classed as a weird packed lunch?
Well, I can tell you because I was mocked quite a lot. I remember all my friends used to have like chocolate and crisps and all that crap. And I used to come in, my mum was an organic freak, so I'd always come in with like a pita bread. There you go, pita bread. And maybe some fruit. I never had any chocolate or anything, and I used to get mocked for it. But yeah, now they're the fat kids. Sorry. Terrible. Is that fair?
What value and belief is that bringing out?
Yeah.
I'm always right.
Yeah. That should be the name of your course.
I'm always right,
always
you're
right.
always wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And the sooner you learn that, the better. You know.
Well, one of the joking apart, one of the values and beliefs that I've discovered is always wanting to prove people wrong. And that has probably first started in school when I was put in the bottom sets. I went, no, why am I here? So I had to prove them wrong. And then starting my first business, people would say, you know, you can't sell health insurance because you're a young kid, and then I'm going to prove you wrong. No one's really doubted me with this business because I've sort of built that reputation and credibility now, but I'm always trying to prove people wrong. But that's what drives me. So that's one of my values. So how, anyway, here's some real examples. I've kept them quite surface level, so we're not going to go too deep unless you want to share some some deeper ones. Mimi, I'm going to read these through, and then perhaps I'll come to you at the end. So have a think while I'm talking. So my belief in freedom over conformity, I'd rather be someone's not my cup of tea than be liked for pretending, because I know that I will attract people that are not meant for me, whether it's professionally or personally, if I pretend to be someone else. Gary, what do you think of this one? And is there something else that you can give me?
No, I mean that's pretty good because that's true. You know, bit of downtime. I'm thinking, right, this is a good time to go out and get some content and create something.
I'll
You know?
reframe that. Sorry, where did this one come? Where do you think your creativity came from, or where did you think creativity as a therapy came from? This could go. You don't have to go that deep if you don't feel comfortable. Sorry.
No, I think just from past experience of going out, doing something, capturing footage,
Yeah.
making something different, new, and
Yeah.
then putting it out there to the world. And because I'm all about moving on to the next thing. I'm always thinking about what's next, so I don't get too hung
Yeah.
up on some of the finer details because I think life's too short, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's probably one of my strong beliefs. Life's too short, and my dad was a very hard worker and never missed a day's work, and he really instilled a kind of good work ethic. And you and I have spoken about this, where you know I'm sometimes doing too much or working too much, you know.
Yeah. So life is too short is one of your values.
Mm.
Great. I thought you were going to say where it came from, but you talked about your dad instilling a work ethic. Is that where you think it came from? That life
Yeah.
is too short?
Well, no, my dad passed away a number of years ago, and that kind of
Okay, right.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of, I
There we
guess,
go.
instilled that, right, you know, life's short, so
And
yeah.
how do you think that's now impacted your, let's bring it back to business. Well, how do you think that's impacted your business and your values within your business?
Because I don't really get too hung up on stuff. I just kind of keep moving. I think it's all
Right.
about keeping moving, getting better, you know, new experiences. Yeah,
Full circle. There we go.
yeah.
Very good. Thank you for being so candid there. James, purpose before process. We talked about this a second ago.
Mm.
So where do you think this came? Well, yeah, go on. Where do you think this came from?
I mean, the specific pivotal moment around purpose was one of the leadership courses at Swiss Re, where they were actually really challenging us to think about what was our filter on stuff. So that's kind of where I really became an evangelist for it. I think the effectiveness, impact, organization, structure, that's, I grew up in a very loving but very organized house, and everything was done and done properly in efficiency and what have you. So I don't know whether that's a root of it. I've never really thought about it.
Affected.
It
Yeah.
just comes more from that irritation of burning productivity, because I'm a bit like Gary. I've always had that kind of like energy and that drive and that
Yeah.
momentum, probably batting against some of the
Yeah.
challenges in childhood, wanting to push forward, be the best and all the rest of it. And then when I see that not happening,
Yeah.
inefficiency or people not being their best or things constraining them, that's where I get wound up with it.
Yeah. Another very common one, ingrained in childhood is siblings and the sense of competitiveness. So if you meet someone who's like super competitive, it usually comes from trying to beat a sibling or something. That's a very common one. And maybe, if I'm being super candid, it's been relevant. That might be relevant to me as well. Anyway, that's going a bit too deep. Mimi, go on then.
Well, yeah, I'm the youngest of four, and I feel like I've always had to try and keep up and catch up. And actually, I'm one of four girls, and we've got three female cousins, and all seven of us are really competitive, and we all have a weekend together every year where we play games, and everybody wants to win. So I think that is when I first started in travel as a 20-year-old in sales. I was really like, I just love being at top of the leaderboard. But I struggle now because I'm self-employed, so I don't really have a leaderboard or anyone to
But don't travel
myself
councils have
against.
a leaderboard?
Yeah, we do, but
One of my big drives of my last business was people telling me that a young kid couldn't sell health insurance to older people, and second of all, we had a leaderboard, and I was furiously trying to get to the top of that thing.
when I first joined TC, I used to monitor it like daily. I'm
Yeah.
probably not as hot as I used to be on that, but
No,
yeah,
it
it's
doesn't drive
interesting.
you.
Pardon?
It doesn't drive you. It doesn't give you that fire and that. Oh, you're chilled about it now.
Yeah, I do like to go on, and it doesn't, when it's people that I don't know, it doesn't necessarily, because it's an international, there's like 6 countries on there. But I do like to go and look at like local travel councils or the ones that I know, and like to pit myself against and see how I'm doing.
There we go.
That does
Yeah.
create a bit of fire.
Yeah. Good. There we go. So it creates fire in business.
But
Right.
going back to what you were saying about
Yes.
being a one of four,
Yeah. Go on.
I've always been like just told to just I feel like I'm a people pleaser. And when you're talking about going out and say like you'd rather turn away people that don't have your belief, like this is feeling really uncomfortable and alien to me, because I wouldn't ever want to upset or like make anybody not like me. But it does make sense. But it's having the confidence to put a post out on LinkedIn that might not offend people, but do you know,
Yeah.
wording it
It
very wrong.
filters. It filters. I think that's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there to. We're not aiming to offend anyone. We're aiming to gently push them away
Yeah.
because they don't align with you. And I know for you it can be a bit alien because you're a travel counselor and perhaps you don't see yourself as I said to you the other day you're a service provider, and you kind of looked at me like, am I? The
Yeah.
reason I say you're a service provider is because I know what you guys do, and you are regularly in very close contact with your clients, and they are usually, if you're good at your job, retained clients. They come
Yeah.
back again and again and again and again. So you're constantly speaking to them. You are providing a service of support, of convenience.
Yeah.
So you are a service provider. So I think it is important for you to work with clients that you actually enjoy working with, because they're going to come back again and again and again and again. You're going to imagine working with someone that you just drove you up the wall, especially booking their holidays.
Well, yeah, those clients I normally try and price out when they come back.
There we go.
But they still pay it. I'm like, oh gosh.
Well, there we go. So personal branding is about you know, keeping them away in the first place. Save you time, save you the heartache down the line.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. It's my 2 cents. So there are 2 options for uncovering your values and beliefs. You've got a 10-minute option, which is just sitting down and asking yourself questions that are not as deep, we'll say. So what do you stand for and against in your industry? What pisses you off? What drives you crazy? What do you see people talk about that you don't agree with in your industry? What advice do you give that others tend to shy away from within your industry? What are the kind of things that you tend to recommend to clients that others would be like, no, don't agree with that? What's your unique take on your industry? Right? When have you risked something to stay true to what you believe? So for example, saying no to a client that you just has a million red flags. So there's a really quick way of doing it. Option 2 is start dictating your life to ChatGPT, and that could take hours. And you do need to have some guidance with this. There's no point just blabbering on about, at this age I did this, at this age I did this. You need to have some reflective questions as you go through. And these questions are things such as, what did that particular moment that you've just talked about teach you about how the world works? What felt unfair to you as a kid? And when did you realize you thought differently to everyone else? This is literally just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the questions, the reflective questions. These are like the questions that therapists would ask you, right? And you can get these questions from ChatGPT. I started dictating my life, did 10,000 words, put it into ChatGPT, and I said, right, give me some more questions to help me dive even deeper. And it gave me stuff like this. And then I started filling in the gaps. And then I started to be able to identify my values and beliefs from that. And I was able to get, my top 3 ones were freedom and independence, persistence and determination, and authenticity and self-expression. And that's from my life experience. And do you see now how I reflect that in my business? So I've got my Be More You framework, which reflects authenticity and self-expression. I've got my determination, which is like, I'm never going to give up on this no matter what. And I've got my freedom of independence value, which is the reason I'm self-employed in the first place, right? So it all comes back to business, right? So yeah, take a screenshot of that if you want. There's your 2 routes, completely up to you. So how do we share our values and beliefs? Now I'm saying how we share because we're actually doing it already. So I'm going to bring it to your attention. And when I do with my one-to-one clients, when we craft your about sections, your North Star, your messaging, we make sure that your beliefs are in there. So I've actually taken some of the stuff that we've crafted and put it here for you. So just to bring it to the forefront and be like, this is how we expressed your beliefs and values from the initial conversation that we had together. So my one at the top of my profile, and you might often see it, is you're not an office kettle, so why are you trying to serve every mug? Because I believe in individuality over mass appeal. So therefore I attract people that are willing to be individual, and I push away those that are wanting to build personal brands for fame, clout, fortune, and money. Because they're trying to appeal to every Dick, Joe, and Harry, like the Love Island contestants and shite like that. I'm here to help business owners find clarity and attract people that they love working with. And as a tertiary effect of all that, yeah, you do make more money. Gary, this was actually a quote from your about section. So this is public.
Yeah.
Would you agree that it's built resilience in you through reinvention and pushing on regardless?
Totally. Yeah. That's a good point you make, though. I mean, I know you're, having a bit of fun, but I was just thinking there, Love Island, right? I've never watched that show, but I'm aware of it and I know what it's about. But there is a certain type of person that they look for that show, right? You know, they've got a criteria to appear on
Wanting to
that.
be famous.
No, well,
No?
there's a criteria for them picking people for that show, right? They've got a formula that works for the TV shows, and
What kind of values would they have?
well, they're pretty shallow, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
you know, because they're seeking kind of fame and fortune and celebrity, but they don't have anything to offer apart from maybe nice shiny teeth or a bum job or something like that.
Yeah,
So, which I
True.
find really fake and really kind of pointless.
exactly. Yeah,
Pointless.
yeah.
And I think the reason you and I kind of get along is when I was at school, I was not part of the gang, not part of the cool gang. I was actually a mod, and the mods were kind of quite different from, you know, we were into jam and different music and stuff. So music always kind of was a big part. So I've always been kind of someone who stood outside a bit, outside the queue, outside the crowd.
Yeah.
And these TV shows, I just see them as like that doesn't interest or appeal to me. There's nothing about that. You know,
So do you
yeah.
see how, like, if you used a threat, and I'm sure we've got it somewhere in your about section, but if you used something along the lines of what I use, you know, you're not an office kettle, so why are you trying to sell every mug? I am trying to attract people that are willing to be individualistic, if that's such a word, be themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but something, you know, I believe in authenticity or something like that. It's like how companies come up with those. James, you're filling the gaps here, but how they come up with those like values and mission statements. I remember I worked in executive recruitment once, and they had like 3 missions on the wall. I kind of get it now. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. It seems a bit silly at the time, but
Yeah, but
what do you think?
but I think it's important to have your own values and mission for your own business and your own self, and we've done that in the
Yeah.
past and talked about that, which I think is just also. I just want to say I did something similar to you in terms of speaking to ChatGTP about my why. What is my why? You
Yeah.
know, why do I do this? And I got some really good. It was a really good exercise. It was when I first started working with you,
Yeah.
and I found that really helpful.
Yeah. Self-discovery is very important. James, sorry, I knew you were going to talk there. So where can you add a bit of context for me as an expert as to why companies do all that stuff?
Yeah, well, and this comes
Yeah.
into one of my bugbears. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's for companies that really stand out, that want to truly articulate how things get done round here and what we value. Those values and mission statements are super important.
Yeah.
What happens 9 times out of 10 is that they are exactly that, put on the wall. They're not lived, nobody remembers them, and actually
Yeah.
if you do try and live one of them and it doesn't gel with your manager, then you're going to get kicked for it. So, you know, I've got
Okay.
organizations where it's like, we value candor, so you tell your manager that they're being a dick, and actually that candor
Can we take
isn't welcome.
Are we going to take that as an idea, content idea for you? That's brilliant. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm being deliberately facetious, but
Facetious. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good one. That's brilliant. That'd be an amazing LinkedIn post, wouldn't it? I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to crack on if that's okay. But thank you for sharing that, guys. Right, come on, next one, please. Techniques to share them every day. So you guys are actually doing it, James and Gary, through your content already, whether you realize it or not. So in conversations, so networking out and about, you can say stuff like, oh, well, I don't typically work with X clients because I believe in X, Y, Z. Through content, can anyone guess who this post is? That one. This was a public post. Do you see here how this was James's. Do you see here how you're sharing a belief about not prevaricating with so many perspectives. Do you see how that's a value that you're sharing, and therefore how it attracts people that don't prevaricate? Yeah. So you're doing it, you might be doing it multiple times within one post without you realizing. Messaging, so this is a lot of the work that I do with you guys, and something, you know, someone comes to me like, Ben, I want help, I want clarity. One of the first things I say, well, is, you know, a lot of the time they tend to be casting a wide net. So I say, well, first of all, close that net a bit and share who you don't want to work with, or who you're not best placed to help, because it doesn't, it attracts more than it repels. It attracts the right people more, because it goes, oh, well, I'm not that person. So it makes you a lot stickier.
Can I
Right.
just ask? So,
Yeah,
like, I don't want to work with people that were happy to book their own travel and want to go and price and get the cheapest for everything.
yeah.
That's something that you would put in that messaging. But
You
obviously,
could
a
say
lot
it in a
more
different way.
eloquently, yeah.
Yeah, you could say it in a different way. So I had a similar belief when I worked for my last company, because yeah, okay, we tend to be the cheapest, but it was more about the service that I provided to them
Yeah.
rather than the price. So why don't you talk about the service that you provide without saying we're not the cheapest, we are the cheapest, whatever. It's not about money. You want to attract people that they don't give a fuck about that kind of thing.
Hey, sorry to interrupt.
No, that was a question. That was me giving an answer. Sorry. Does that help? Yeah. No, that's fine. Thank you for asking. Oh, that's it for today. So hope you guys took a lot away from that. Very conscious of time going over today. Please help me grow this community. So post about it today. Share one thing that you learn about your values and beliefs on LinkedIn or on Instagram. Take a picture of the screen now. Or who is one founder that you know that is fantastic offline, but invisible online, that you could introduce me to, or again, forward this invite email